I think sometimes that kind of some people want that sort of that coaching style, right? If you are the more kind of firm, serious type, some people want that kind of that kind of guide through their strength training session. Have you found that? Some people get
Yeah, I mean,
motivated by that.
I see a lot of things in the club every day, and a lot of it really makes me scratch my head. Some people want a friend. Some people end up talking, for large periods of time. You got people on their phones. I mean, it really amazes me that people go, "Oh, I'm going to the gym," and when you actually put a clock on how much they're actually working, you're going, "Oh my gosh!" It's just they're wasting so much time that could be spent more efficiently, and they'd find out they'd have more time to do other things.
But it's like a social event for some of these people, right? They enjoy
Oh,
just
without a
chatting with
doubt,
people. So you
without
can
a
argue,
doubt.
you can argue that it's not necessarily a waste of time if they get value out of just having a chin wag with someone.
Well, yeah, but they're wasting their time. If they're trying to have a conversation with me, they're wasting my time, and I don't like to waste
Very
time.
true. No, I
you know,
get that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
I
so
mean,
you're
time.
thinking about the trainers. Go ahead. Yeah.
Right. I'm talking about everyone. I mean, you know, uh, time is your most valuable asset.
Hmm.
And when I was in college, and even after I got out of college, and I looked at the amount of time I was training, you're like, wow, that's a big investment. If I can do it 2-3 hours a week and still get the same benefits, why not do that? And
Yeah.
it frees you up time to do other things and explore new avenues and learn. And so I tell people, powerlifting, I enjoyed powerlifting. I enjoyed the competition. I enjoy competition now. I enjoy going against the other trainers and the other clubs around the country that we have. That's the competition now. I enjoyed Sundays in the NFL, taking my 60 guys and going against their 60 guys. I love competition. But, I had all these plastic weightlifting trophies and they weren't putting any food on the table. And even though I enjoyed doing it, it was taking up a huge chunk of time that I could better spend utilizing to get a job, make a living, support my family, and move forward.
Yeah. I mean, 100% agree with that. I mean, I don't know if you know much about my background, Steve, but I had very much this, as well, a similar experience in terms of exercise just dominated my life. I was working out or doing some sort of exercise probably 10 times a week. So training occasionally twice a day. And it wasn't just time, it was energy. Like I had no time and energy for anything outside my exercise and my work. So I had no time for social life, no relationship, no time for any real working on any kind of business interests on the side. And then it was when this is kind of, it sounds like this story is almost too perfect, but it is the truth. And that's when I discovered Dr. Doug McGuff's work on YouTube. Watched a video he did with the 21 convention, which was a game changer. First time I heard about exercise being talked about in this way, then read Body by Science and consolidated those 10 sessions down to one session a week. And no word of a lie. And that freed me up to pursue everything else. And since then, built a business, moved out of a career in sales in London, built a successful business that I run full time. Met my now fiance, have my, these things I wouldn't have done. I wouldn't have time or energy to do had I not discovered this. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate
And
about it.
and I tell people, I'm like a chef. You got to have balance, okay, in your life,
Yeah.
in your training, in your program. And there's certain ingredients you need. And it's my job to make sure that we have the right amounts of those ingredients to get the right final piece. And so you need balance in your training, you need balance in your life. And if you have those, it allows you a lot more flexibility moving forward.
Do you find when you work with your clients that you have to do a lot of, you have to help them unlearn certain assumptions they have?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, because once again, when you're telling them to do one set, the first thing you got to do is get them to slow their reps down. I mean, because they see people in the gym and everyone watches, especially now with YouTube out, everyone finds the latest, greatest thing on YouTube and wants to try it at the gym. And you tell people, listen, when you go that fast, you're increasing the shearing forces on your joints. That's not good. Your brain is only going to recruit as many muscle fibers as it needs to lift something. So if you're using momentum to help you lift it, you're wasting your time. And so, but everyone does it because they can use more weight and they think that's better. No one goes full range of motion anymore because they can't use as much weight. And it still goes back to that. And if they find if they do it correctly, the weight will come when they start using good form, going full range of motion, and then over time, you will get the results that you want. And that's a great thing about, I think some trainers today are afraid of the accountability, because what happens if I put them in the bod pod and they don't increase their lean muscle mass? Oh my gosh, I'm going to be exposed. And I tell people, look, I don't care what you put in your mouth. Okay. I'm not a registered dietitian. I'm a strength and conditioning professional. If I'm doing my job, we should see your lean muscle mass improve over time. And if we aren't, then we have to examine why that's occurring. And so I think people get that and they see that, especially because my clients ask me all the time when I'm taking through, how close is that to my best effort? So they bought in and say, okay, I know, or I tell them, hey, that's a new best effort. You haven't done that weight since 2017. So, and they're like, wow, really? So data is so important in all aspects, but you also realize that data is only as good as we saw with the models with the pandemic. It's only as good as the information you put in. So you got to make sure your data is accurate.
That's brilliant. I love the fact that you brought up the modeling, data, which is a little bit suspect to say the least.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation though, and a controversial one. Although I suppose this whole conversation is kind of controversial to the fitness industry. That's interesting. So not the first time I'm hearing, obviously, an expert focus on the strength and conditioning and not the fat loss, which makes a lot of sense. Now, although you explain to them, look, I'm not going to tell you what to put in your mouth. Do you explain that high intensity training is going to make fat loss more permissive? It's going to help them with that aspect?
I do. I explain to them that a pound of muscle will burn more calories than a pound of fat. So if we can increase your lean muscle mass, you're going to become a more efficient burner of calories. And, a lot of times I tell them, look, your lean muscle mass is going to go up and your fat may go down, and usually does, but there's cases where it doesn't. I mean, when I was, the one thing I learned when I was at Tectonic is the owner of the company wanted to focus on athletic development and athletes. Well, that is a small portion of the population. When you open it up to everyone, athletes, people over 55, professionals, firefighters, policemen, you open up a broad more range of people to draw from instead of trying to specialize. And I'd specialized my whole entire life with athletics. So it was nice to get out and train. I mean, one of my first clients at Tectonic was a female diver. I didn't know anything about diving. Okay, I know they get wet when they go in the water. That's all I knew. But this young lady was an elite diver, and she was in a boot, and her mom came to us and said, listen, she's got to meet in 2 months, and we don't want her to lose anything. I said, look, that's all I do is train people. I work around injuries because that's what I got every day. And so everyone has something: elbow, back, shoulder, knee. Okay. Your ability to take that person and get them through a total body workout without aggravating whatever issue they have is a lost art. Most people say, okay, we won't do that today. Well, what do you mean? It's just going to atrophy and get worse.
What's your process for kind of identifying like contraindications and then finding workarounds?
Discussion, taking them through that isolateral routine and seeing what I see with my own eyes. I'm there every rep, every exercise, recording. If there's a strength discrepancy between the right leg set, it's documented. If they have discomfort, I document it. I'll say, hey, last time we had to back this down because this was bothering you, So you just have to know exactly what you're dealing with. And, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm fortunate I'm married to a physical therapist, so we have a lot of interesting conversations at the dinner table. But,
a lot of disagreements too, right?
Not so much. Early in our careers we did, but we've come around to a common She trains high intensity. She's a full believer and sees its benefit in physical
Cool.
therapy.
Yeah.
She sees the downside of using bands. As far as a progressive overload. If that's all you got, great. But at some point, you're going to have to go to a larger band. It's like downhill running or uphill running that a lot of athletes do. You got to continue to progress, and pretty soon you're climbing a mountain. It's much easier to add 5 or 10 pounds to a piece of equipment than try to find a higher mountain to climb.
Sure, it's much easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to hark back a moment to working in the NFL. I'm just curious, how often was it that you would work with a player who actually didn't have any injuries?
Oh, never. Early in the year you get them, but it goes back to everyone being on the same page. I worked for coaches that would actually, in the traditional model, not nowadays because they only go one day, but they used to go 2 practices a day every single day in training camp. Well, we had coaches that would give up one of those practices twice a week for strength training. That was unheard of at the time. Okay. And 1, it kept the coaches from beating the crap out of them in practice. And 2, gave them an opportunity to keep their strength levels up during training camp. So when we got back to training 1 time a week, getting ready for the season, there was less wear and tear, and they had less of a strength drop off going into the season.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what were the most? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What were the most common injuries you would see in NFL players?
Knees and shoulders.
Okay.
Yeah.
What specifically? Yeah.
Well, we'd get ACLs, MCL tears. A lot of shoulder impingement, you get some shoulder dislocations. But, dealing with our team doctors, they were on board with the way we were training people because, as soon as you get somebody with a knee injury, they go, okay, no leg extensions. And I'm like, what do you mean no leg extensions? We're doing leg extensions. And that's another common thing that I bring up with my clients. They said, well, my doctor tells me I shouldn't do this. I said, well, let's look at it. Let's watch people do their leg extensions in the gym. And they're just flying it up and down, and the shearing forces on that. But if you do a set of leg extensions properly where you're eliminating momentum, pausing at the top, and overloading, nothing is going to work your quad more than that. Mm-hmm. And so to have a team physician and doctors and trainers that say, okay, yes, shoulder injury, nothing over their head. Well, if you got 5 different ways you can do a shoulder press, you can find something for them to do. Dan Riley, he came up with manual resistance. He wrote a whole book on manual resistance, and originally it was to get players training. When he was at Penn State, the coach wouldn't give him time, so they'd pair him up on the field, and they would do manual resistance there. We even did that in the NFL when you were able to take 120 guys to camp. You just couldn't get everybody in the room. So there's a lot of different ways to get it done. If it's well organized, well thought out and planned, and provides tons of variety. Now, because of the pandemic, I've had to put the manual resistance on hold, due to social distancing and stuff. And I got clients say, come on, no one's going to. I'm like, no, we can't, because they really enjoy that type of exercise.
So the facilities kind of ban that?
No, I'm just trying to be a good role model for everyone else, and we can still get it done without having to do those. And then once this is all over, we'll be able to go back to that. But we've just made we've only done little tweaks, but they get used to, they know how efficient a manual exercise can be.